15 November is not just a date. It is the moment you finally stop walking in circles. For so long, life has been repeating itself in front of you, same thoughts, same reactions, same disappointments, same habits that quietly shaped every choice you made. But on 15 November, something inside you becomes clearer. You begin to see the cycle you've been trapped in. You begin to recognize that nothing outside of you has been holding you back, only the patterns within you. This day becomes the turning point because it gives you the courage to look directly at the behaviors you used to overlook. What you used to ignore now stands like a mirror in front of you. And in that mirror, you finally see the truth. You cannot continue living the same way and expect a different outcome. 15 November carries the energy of awakening. It reminds you that your life does not change when the calendar changes, it changes when the mind awakens. For years, you may have repeated the same emotional responses, the same beliefs, the same routines, thinking they were harmless. But every small habit was shaping your destiny. Every unconscious reaction was steering your life. On 15 November, the unconscious becomes conscious. You start to recognize the mechanism of your own suffering. You see how often you surrendered to fear, how often you chose comfort over growth, how often you avoided the discomfort that could have transformed you. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. That is the power of this day. This turning point is not loud. It does not arrive with noise or dramatic events. It appears quietly. It appears in the silence of your awareness, in the moment you catch yourself repeating an old pattern and decide to stop. 15 November becomes the day you say, no more. No more repeating what drains you. No more returning to what breaks you. No more carrying the old version of yourself into the future you want to create. This is the day you understand that your cycles were not punishment, they were a call to wake up. They were your training ground. On 15 November, you begin to observe your reactions. Instead of blindly acting them out, you pause before anger. You breathe before judgment. You notice the impulse to complain, to doubt, to quit, and you choose differently. This is how patterns break, not through force, but through awareness. When you recognize the pattern, you free yourself from it. And when you free yourself, the world around you begins to shift without you forcing anything. This day marks the moment you finally reclaim your inner authority. You no longer let your past decide your future. You start to feel the power of discipline returning to you. You feel your energy rising again. You start respecting yourself in a new way because you are no longer controlled by the same old emotional storms. 15 November teaches you that freedom is not found in escaping your life. Freedom is found in mastering yourself. Every habit you break becomes a victory. Every pattern you dissolve becomes a new doorway. Every moment of awareness becomes a step toward the life you always wanted but never dared to pursue fully. This date becomes the anchor of your transformation because it teaches you that the cycle ends when you end it. The moment you say enough is the moment a new chapter begins. On 15 November, you realize that your growth is not defined by how fast you move, but by how deeply you understand yourself. You recognize that change does not require perfect conditions, it only requires a conscious decision. A single moment of clarity can outweigh years of confusion. This is why 15 November stands as a turning point. It is the day you stop blaming circumstances. It is the day you stop waiting for signs. It is the day you stop repeating the automatic behaviors that kept you stuck. You rise above the patterns that once controlled you. You build a new foundation from awareness, not fear. You allow yourself to evolve because you finally understand that repeating the old will only recreate the old. 15 November becomes the moment you step into a higher version of yourself, not because the world changes, but because you change. You choose to live with intention. You choose to act with clarity. You choose to break cycles with courage. And as you do, life begins to open in ways you never imagined. The turning point has arrived, and it begins within you. The 15 November carries a different kind of strength. It is the day your mind stops working against you and finally begins working for you. For so long, the mind has been conditioned by fear, doubt, and old beliefs that were never truly yours. You lived with thoughts that shaped your identity without questioning where they came from. But on 15 November, something shifts. You begin to realize that the quality of your life is defined by the quality of your mindset. Everything begins from within. Every movement, every decision, every action, every direction, it all starts in the mind. And when the mind becomes your ally instead of your enemy, your entire life begins to reorganize itself. On 15 November, you see clearly that your thoughts are not harmless. They are forces, they are seeds. Every thought you allow to repeat becomes a pattern, and every pattern becomes a reality. You begin to understand that your inner voice has been shaping your journey far more than circumstances ever have. This day becomes the turning point because you finally wake up to the truth that your mind is not supposed to control you, you are supposed to guide it. You start to sense the immense power that comes from a disciplined mind, a mind that stays focused, a mind that stays calm, a mind that stays awake. There is something powerful about this day. It carries the energy of clarity. It brings the realization that you cannot build a new life with an old mindset. The same thinking that created your struggles cannot create your breakthroughs. So on 15 November, you begin to clean the inner space. You begin to watch your thoughts with awareness. You begin to choose what stays and what leaves. You no longer entertain ideas that make you weak. You no longer feed emotions that anchor you to the past. You no longer give attention to what steals your energy. The moment you stop feeding negativity, it starts losing its power over you. What makes 15 November a true turning point is the inner discipline it awakens. You start becoming intentional with your mental atmosphere. You protect your mind like a sacred space. You allow only the thoughts that uplift, strengthen, and guide you. You begin to understand that you cannot rise with a chaotic mind. You cannot move forward with thoughts pulling you backward. So you purify your inner dialogue. You begin training your attention. You observe the way you speak to yourself. You notice the stories you repeat in your mind. And every time the old voice appears, you replace it with a new one, stronger, clearer, more aligned with who you are becoming. On 15 November, you start to witness the shift. You feel more centered. You feel more capable. You feel more connected with your path. Because when the mind becomes disciplined, life begins to follow that discipline. When the mind becomes calm, life stops feeling like chaos. When the mind becomes focused, the path ahead becomes visible. This is the transformation that begins within you. The world outside does not need to change. You are the one who changes, and everything adjusts naturally. You begin to understand that your greatest battles were never external. They were always internal. The conflicts you felt in life were reflections of the conflicts in your mind. And on 15 November, you finally choose to stop fighting yourself. You choose harmony, you choose clarity, you choose to direct your thoughts instead of being directed by them. This is where your true power begins. A powerful mind creates a powerful life. A clear mind creates a clear path. A stable mind creates stable progress. As the energy of 15 November settles within you, you recognize the importance of consistency. A powerful mindset is not created in one moment. It is trained every day. It is shaped through discipline, awareness, and repetition. You begin removing what no longer serves you. You start feeding your mind with knowledge, silence, and intention. You allow yourself to grow into someone who no longer reacts blindly, but responds with wisdom. This is the transformation that defines 15 November. It is the moment your mindset becomes your supporter, your protector, your guide. You no longer fear your thoughts. You no longer drown in worries. You no longer let confusion take control. You observe, you understand, you transform. This is the day you reclaim your mental space with authority and calm strength. When the mindset shifts, life shifts. When the mind becomes aligned, the world begins to align with it. 15 November becomes the moment the inner world rises, and with it, your entire path begins to elevate. This day marks the beginning of a new way of thinking, one that does not limit you, but expands you. One that does not pull you backward, but carries you forward. One that does not hold you prisoner, but sets you free. 15 November is the day you realize the power of responsibility. For too long, life may have felt like it was happening to you. You looked at circumstances, at other people, at the world, and you believed that your destiny was determined by forces beyond your control. But 15 November teaches you that the true turning point comes when you stop giving your power away. It comes when you take ownership of your actions, your choices, and the results they bring. This day marks the moment you understand that waiting for someone to rescue you, waiting for the perfect moment, or waiting for conditions to be right is the very thing that keeps you stuck. The moment you take responsibility, life begins to flow differently. The chains that held you begin to fall away, and the path ahead becomes clearer. On 15 November, you feel a shift within yourself. You notice how often you blamed others for what did not work, how often you used excuses as shields, how often you surrendered your power thinking it belonged somewhere else. This day shines a light on those habits. It asks you to stop hiding behind circumstances and to face the truth. You are the one steering your life. You may not control every event, but you control your response. You may not command every situation, but you command your attitude. Taking responsibility is not a burden, it is liberation. On 15 November, you understand that freedom comes through owning your choices, not avoiding them. This day becomes a turning point because it reminds you that excuses are illusions. They are comfort disguised as safety, but they steal your future. On 15 November, you begin to see the cost of avoiding responsibility. Every time you shifted blame, every time you waited for someone else, you delayed your growth. The day calls you to courage, the courage to admit where you failed, where you resisted, where you hid, and the courage to choose differently moving forward. This courage is not loud, it is quiet, steady, and persistent. It is the courage to wake up each morning and decide that your life will no longer be a reflection of avoidance, but a reflection of conscious choice. 15 November also teaches that taking responsibility is the foundation of true empowerment. When you stop blaming, you reclaim your energy. When you stop complaining, you reclaim your clarity. When you stop waiting, you reclaim your momentum. This day illuminates the simple truth. The life you desire cannot arrive through wishful thinking alone. It arrives through action grounded in accountability. You begin to see that the moments when you acted with ownership were the moments when you experienced real growth. You remember times when you stood firm, made a difficult choice, accepted the consequences, and felt your inner strength expand. That same strength becomes available to you again on 15 November if only you claim it. On this day, You also learn that responsibility is not only about correcting mistakes, it is about creating intentionally. 15 November asks you to stop drifting. It asks you to stop repeating old patterns under the guise of inevitability. It asks you to direct your energy toward what matters, to make conscious decisions aligned with your higher purpose. The turning point is not about blaming yourself harshly, it is about guiding yourself firmly. Responsibility becomes your tool for transformation. Every choice you make becomes a step forward. Every small action a declaration that you will no longer be passive in your own life. 15 November reminds you that growth is born in accountability. When you accept responsibility, you stop waiting for permission to evolve. You stop hoping that life will hand you what you need. You stop standing on the sidelines. You step fully into your power, and the world responds accordingly. Life begins to test you, yes, but in a new way. Challenges no longer feel like punishment, they feel like invitations to apply your power wisely. Obstacles are no longer threats, they are mirrors reflecting your readiness to act responsibly. The day also teaches patience within responsibility. Taking ownership does not mean instant results. It does not mean a sudden transformation. It means showing up consistently, making choices consciously, and holding yourself accountable to the standards you set. Every day from 15 November becomes a chance to practice this. You notice where you fail, you notice where you succeed, and you adjust with clarity. There is no self-pity, no blame, only the steadfast commitment to navigate life with purpose. This is the essence of maturity, the essence of empowerment, and the essence of transformation that 15 November brings. 15 November is a declaration. You will no longer allow the world to dictate your inner state. You will no longer wait for change to happen outside of you. You are the architect of your life, and every action from this day forward carries weight. Responsibility becomes freedom. Accountability becomes strength. Ownership becomes power. This is the magic of 15 November. It is the day that transforms excuses into clarity, avoidance into courage, and fear into determination. On 15 November, you step fully into the role of the creator of your own destiny. You understand that no one else can do it for you. The day teaches that the turning point of life does not come from luck, from timing, or from circumstance. It comes from one decisive act, choosing to take responsibility. And once that choice is made, the path forward becomes unmistakably clear. Life no longer feels like a series of random events. It becomes a journey you consciously navigate. 15 November becomes a landmark in your personal evolution. The day you claim your power, stand firmly in it, and move with unwavering intention toward the life you are capable of creating. 15 November is the day you begin to see your environment with new eyes. It is the day you recognize that your growth is not just internal, it is reflected in the spaces you occupy, in the people you allow close, and in the energy you consume. For too long, life may have felt heavy, chaotic, or stuck, and yet you did not see that the external world was shaping your internal state as much as your thoughts. On 15 November, you become aware that the people, the habits, and the circumstances around you either elevate you or drain you. You begin to understand that true transformation requires both inner work and conscious choices about what surrounds you. On this day, you start noticing subtle patterns. You see which relationships uplift your spirit and which ones sap your energy. You notice which environments inspire creativity, clarity, and action, and which ones cloud your mind with distractions, fear, or doubt. 15 November becomes a moment of awakening because you realize that growth cannot occur in spaces that hold you back. You begin to make decisions to step away from negativity, to stop tolerating toxic influences, and to protect your mental and emotional space. This is not selfishness, it is preservation, it is preparation, it is a commitment to the life you want to build. 15 November teaches you the importance of alignment. Your surroundings must mirror the level of clarity and focus you are cultivating inside. The people you spend time with reflect the beliefs and attitudes that you allow to enter your mind. The environments you frequent set the tone for your energy and your actions. If you remain in chaos, distraction, or drama, your internal growth will be stunted. But on 15 November, you begin to take intentional steps. You choose connections that challenge you, that inspire you, and that hold you accountable. You choose spaces that encourage calm, focus, and clarity. This day becomes the turning point where you understand that growth is both an internal and an external commitment. On this day, you also begin to understand the subtle power of boundaries. And 15 November shows you that saying no is as vital as saying yes. You cannot rise if you allow constant interruptions, negative opinions, or draining conversations to dominate your energy. You begin to recognize the value of solitude, reflection, and selective engagement. It is not isolation, it is discernment. It is choosing where to invest your attention, because attention is energy, and energy shapes everything. On 15 November, you see clearly that your environment either strengthens your path or weakens it, and you make conscious choices accordingly. This day also illuminates the importance of accountability in your surroundings. You begin to surround yourself with those who support growth, who reflect the standard you are stepping into, and who inspire action rather than excuses. 15 November reminds you that you cannot reach your next level alone, but neither can you thrive in toxic or stagnant company. The people around you become mirrors, teachers, and catalysts. You start choosing relationships that challenge you to evolve, that push you to rise, and that remind you of your potential. On 15 November, you stop clinging to comfort disguised as companionship, and you choose growth disguised as alignment. The day also challenges you to take a hard look at your routines and spaces. You see how clutter, distractions, or habitual behaviors silently control your mind. On 15 November, you begin to clear what no longer serves you. You organize your space, you simplify your habits, and you create environments that inspire clarity and focus. Growth demands order and intention, and this day becomes a turning point because you take responsibility for the energy that surrounds you. You realize that every choice, every relationship, every environment either strengthens or diminishes your potential. 15 November is not a day of superficial change, it is a day of deep recalibration. You begin to notice how the world responds to your inner state. When you clear negative influences, you make room for support, inspiration, and opportunity. When you align your environment with your purpose, you accelerate your path. You begin to understand that transformation is not only about what you think or do, it is also about what you allow to enter your life. On 15 November, you become the gatekeeper of your growth. You stop letting external chaos dictate your internal state, and you start choosing wisely, consistently, and with awareness. This day reminds you that growth is holistic. 15 November becomes the moment where inner clarity meets external alignment. You begin to take decisive action in your relationships, your spaces, and your daily routines. You eliminate distractions, protect your energy, and create conditions where growth can flourish. You understand that your potential is not limited by the world, it is limited only by what you accept and what you allow. On 15 November, you step fully into the responsibility of curating your life. Because the turning point is not only internal, it is also reflected in every choice you make about where and with whom you spend your energy. From 15 November onward, life begins to respond differently. You notice opportunities more clearly, relationships become more supportive, and your focus sharpens. This day becomes a marker, a moment of conscious alignment, where you decide that nothing and no one will distract you from the path you are building. You begin to cultivate an environment that matches your vision, that reinforces your discipline, and that honors your growth. 15 November becomes the day when you finally see that your inner evolution and your external environment must work together. And from this day forward, they do. Growth is no longer passive. It becomes a deliberate, intentional, and unstoppable force. 15 November is the day action becomes more than a choice. It becomes a commitment. For too long, life may have felt like waiting for the perfect moment, waiting for clarity, waiting for circumstances to align. But 15 November reminds you that the perfect moment is an illusion, and waiting is a habit that steals your potential. This day marks the turning point where doing replaces hoping, where movement replaces indecision, and where purpose replaces hesitation. On 15 November, you understand that growth is not a dream, it is a practice. It is not built by wishful thinking, but by consistent action taken with clarity and courage. On this day, you begin to recognize the difference between movement and meaningful action. Many spend their lives busy yet stagnant. They react, they procrastinate, they drift. But on 15 November, you feel the power of intentional effort. You begin to measure every action by its alignment with your goals and your purpose. You see clearly that small, deliberate steps compound into transformation. This is the day you embrace the principle that doing something imperfectly now is far more powerful than waiting for perfection later. 15 November becomes the moment you choose progress over comfort and results begin to follow. 15 November also teaches the value of discipline. Action without direction is noise. Consistent, focused action is power. This day reminds you that discipline is not punishment, it is freedom. It is the structure that allows potential to manifest. You begin to understand that success is not found in bursts of energy, but in steady, unwavering effort. Every day, every choice, every step taken with intention becomes a brick in the foundation of the life you are creating. On 15 November, you start building with purpose, and the momentum that follows is unstoppable. On this day, you feel the urgency of accountability. Action requires responsibility, and 15 November is the day you refuse to make excuses. You refuse to blame circumstances, to delay decisions, or to wait for someone else to start. You begin to understand that action is not simply doing it, is commitment. It is the willingness to face discomfort, to take risks, and to persist despite fear. This is the day you learn that growth does not occur in comfort zones. It occurs in the tension between desire and effort, between challenge and resolve. On 15 November, you embrace that tension and use it to fuel forward movement. 15 November also teaches that momentum is created through small, consistent victories. You begin to notice the power of showing up every day, even in small ways. Every step counts, every decision matters. Each moment of conscious action strengthens your resolve and builds confidence. This is the day you stop underestimating the impact of persistence. You understand that a single action may not transform everything, but continuous action, compounded over time, reshapes your reality. 15 November becomes the benchmark where effort meets intention and transformation begins to manifest tangibly. This day encourages courage. Action is often uncomfortable. It challenges old habits, disrupts familiar patterns, and demands energy you have not used before. On 15 November, you confront this discomfort. You step into the uncertainty with faith in your own capacity. You realize that every step you take, no matter how small, is a declaration of your commitment to your growth. Waiting is easy, acting is brave. On 15 November, you choose bravery, and that choice ignites a shift in your life that cannot be reversed. 15 November teaches that results are born from alignment. Action is most effective when it is rooted in clarity, purpose, and self-awareness. You begin to see that random effort, scattered attention, and half-hearted attempts produce chaos, not progress. On 15 November, you align your actions with your goals, your principles, and your vision. You move deliberately, strategically, and with intent. This alignment transforms ordinary effort into extraordinary results. The day reminds you that when action is aligned with purpose, even the smallest steps ripple into profound transformation. On this day, patience and persistence merge. You understand that growth is not instant. Action is not always rewarded immediately, but on 15 November, you learn to trust the process. You continue to move, even when the path is unclear, even when results are delayed. The act of consistent, intentional doing becomes the proof of your commitment. You are no longer at the mercy of luck or timing. You become the creator of your reality. The day solidifies the principle that disciplined action over time is unstoppable. 15 November becomes a symbol of empowerment. It reminds you that life is not about waiting for opportunities, it is about creating them. It reminds you that potential without action is wasted. On this day, you internalize the truth that you are the architect of your destiny. Every choice, every movement, every disciplined step shapes your reality. Action becomes your statement of power, your declaration of purpose, and your proof of commitment to growth. On 15 November, you step into that power fully, leaving hesitation, excuses, and passivity behind. From 15 November onward, doing becomes a habit, not a struggle. You rise each day with intention, moving toward what matters, refusing distractions, and honoring your commitments. You feel the energy of action flowing through you, the confidence of momentum growing, and the clarity of purpose sharpening your focus. 15 November is not just a day, it is the ignition of a new chapter. It is the moment when intention becomes reality, when potential becomes achievement, and when the turning point transforms into lasting progress. Action becomes your path, your practice, and your power.